Next slide, thanks, Lisa. Yeah, so just to let you know that we are recording. If you don't want your images recorded, then you can just close your video. Either way is fine, but it's going to be posted up on our website for your future reference and for those people who are also interested in the program. So with that, let me begin today's proceedings. Next slide, thanks, Lisa. I'd just like to acknowledge that we're coming to you from the Vancouver campus at UBC in Vancouver, and this is a lovely picture of our campus set against the North Shore Mountains. And these are the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam people, where the university is located. I know you're coming in from many diverse and wonderful parts of the continent and perhaps other parts around the world, so very much welcome you here today. So with that, let me just introduce myself formally. My name's David Anderson. I'm the one of the co-directors of the program. I've been working on this program for now coming on almost 18 years. And alongside me is my long-standing colleague and also co-director, Lisa McIntosh. Just say hi, Lisa.
Hello, everybody.
Lisa will be co-facilitating this with me, along with my other co-administrator, co-director of the program, Anita Sinha. Say hi, Anita.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, so we three are the co-directors of the program, and we'll be facilitating this program with you over the next 2.5 years. If you're one of the people who are admitted to the program and travel the journey along with us throughout this wonderful course. Next slide, thanks, Lisa. So just a bit about today's agenda. So we're aiming to cover this in about 1 hour, maybe it's a smidgen longer. I've done the basic introductions of our faculty. I do have another faculty member two other faculty members who will be joining us. And I think maybe they're here already. Let's see, Marie-France, are you here?
Yes, I am, David. I'm
yes,
here.
Marie-France will be talking a little bit later, but she's one of our faculty. And then Dustin Garnett, are you here, Dustin?
I am. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Dustin. Dustin's also a faculty member in the program, and they'll be just sharing a little bit about their particular courses as we move through the agenda this afternoon. So with that, we're going to talk about the history, the objectives, more formal faculty introductions, in terms of who's who in the zoo of the faculty who teaches the program structure. We're going to hear from our colleague Nina, who is a current MMED graduate student and also works at the Getty Museum in Los Angeles. She's going to be sharing her perspective from the student side of things, and you can please feel free to ask her any questions that you may have. We're going to talk about the application and admission process and the overview. And Kelvin, where's Kelvin? You here, Kelvin?
Hello, everyone.
Kelvin is a very, very important and wonderful fellow in our program. He deals with the admissions process. So we'll be talking about the academic side of things, and then Kelvin will be talking about the administrative procedures for admission, tuition costs, how you actually apply, and all these other important questions. And we're going to round it out by an open opportunity for you to ask questions that you may have. So over to you, Lisa. Tell us a bit about the history of this program.
I would be happy to. You don't want to talk about this slide now, though, do you, David?
Oh, well, sure. We can just touch base on this, but I think probably most of you are aware that it's a 2-year and 1-term program in total, so that's 7 terms. 90% of the curriculum is online. We do have one course which constitutes that 10%, which is face-to-face, and we do that on Vancouver campus at the Museum of Anthropology in July. In this case, it'll be July 2027, where we all come together just for an intensive program of 1 week or 5 days where we meet face-to-face on the campus. We all facilitate one course called Anthropology 518, which is Museum Methods Together. And that's a very, very wonderful program. I'm sure Nina will speak to that experience as well. So, of course, this is for everybody who is interested in museums and informal learning spaces. And we're very interested in having all kinds of museum professionals and educators participate, including currently practicing museum professionals, teachers, community educators, or even if you're not a museum educator now, but you've got designs on sort of working in this field, this program's for you also. Program application deadline is the 15th of March coming up. And it's open to all disciplines. So we have all kinds of disciplines represented in the program, from the arts, sciences, history, all manner of spaces within the curriculum. And with that, Lisa, sorry, can you just share a little bit about the history of the program?
Sure. So this program started with a great idea you had back in, I guess, the mid 2000-ish, to develop a program that's really focused specifically on museum educators. There are a number of programs out there on curatorial, like a master's in curatorial studies, which often had a small component focused on education, but not a really strong focus. So we started talking to practicing museum educators, using the local community here in Vancouver as a sounding board for the ideas, and put together a very robust program that really looks at all facets of teaching and learning in informal settings like museums, parks, the whole gamut of informal settings. And that was kind of the first group we ran through and tested it. And it has become, I think, a really strong program, adding interesting program or courses to the mix as things within the field change. And I think now we're looking at our 9th cohort. And so if you take part in this program, you will be part of a very robust community of graduates.
So this is our 10th cohort, actually, because we had MED 0.
Right, that's true. Yes, you're right. Do you want me to talk a bit more about the objectives here, David? Yeah. So really, it's, as I mentioned, it's really that focus on teaching and learning in non-classroom settings. And one of the nice things about the program is we also have educators from other settings, like classroom teachers who are really interested in using the community as part of their practice, as well as educators from other areas like community centers, the whole different kind of range of community-based educators. And that brings a really nice, rich of multiple perspectives into our conversations throughout the courses. It is a graduate level program, so we have that chance to really engage more deeply with theory. And it's also that opportunity to use the coursework and the ideas that we talk about in the course as and to use your work setting as almost like a laboratory where you get to test out and play around with some of these ideas. And so the conversation in our courses is that play between practice and theory. So as outcomes of the program, you're going to be really looking at analyzing and talking about these different theories around teaching and learning in informal settings, look at it from multiple perspectives. And it's really a chance to share what you're learning with your colleagues and kind of expanding on that thinking. We'll also look at developing some different ways of developing programs and different kind of learning opportunities, and a chance to try those ideas out not only in your practice, but kind of use your colleagues in the program as a sounding board. So you're really going to come out of the program with a much bigger understanding of all of the facets and the potential of teaching and learning in informal settings. David, do you want me to jump into, I think the next section is kind of talking about each of us and yes, okay.
Tell us more about you, Lisa.
More about me, excellent. So a little about me. So I was actually fortunate that I did my PhD with David and was the grad student working on developing this program with him. So I've been a part of the program for a long time. I've worked as a museum educator in a variety of different kind of settings for multiple decades now. And through the program, we'll teach 2 of the core courses. One is about that looks at teaching in informal settings, where we really focus on you as the educator and the educators, such as the paid educators and volunteers that you might work with, and talk about how do we approach teaching as a practice. And then the other course, which I think is probably my favorite course, is we look at public programming. And that really focuses more on the programming beyond school programs. And it's really kind of the exciting potential of how museums are looking at a variety of audiences and shaping learning experiences for them. I love working with the students in this program. It's a great way to keep connected, and I find it really challenging and stimulating. Marie-France?
Hello, that's me. So hello, everyone. So lovely to be here with you today. I'm an art educator and art historian. So I did my BA and MA in art history at l'Université de Montréal, my PhD here at the Université de Colombie-Britannique, British Columbia, in art education. My background is oh dear, time flies, to about 27 years in museum education. So I did 15 years as coordinator of the gallery programs at the Musée d'Art Contemporain Montréal. That was supervising the team of museum educators, doing artist talks, creating exhibitions, connecting schools with various projects, exhibition projects that I would plan and organize at the Musée d'Art Contemporain, providing writing educational materials and giving lectures and all of that. Quite broad spectrum. And then I came to do my PhD at UBC, and I started working at the Vancouver Art Gallery, where I did 11 years. So I was 11 years with the public programs, for 1 year as a coordinator of the family programs, and then I was in the school programs. I was also in the adult tours. So I also explored and really got to live that experience of museum education at the Vancouver Art Gallery. So Montreal and here. And I have the pleasure of teaching two courses, which I absolutely love. They're always a joy for me to teach. One is Curriculum Issues and Theories in Museums, which is one of your required course. When we think of curriculum, is so much more than what do I teach, how do I teach it, and how do I assess it. As Dr. William Prynar says, the curriculum is a very complicated conversation. It's social, political, phenomenological, identitary. And we look at those choices that we make in museums or when we teach, they're never quite neutral. So we examine that situation. I also have the pleasure to teach an optional, it's an elective course that I would like, if I get an opportunity, I'm going to try to sell it to you. It's about educational museum exhibitions and educational design. So looking at exhibition spaces and exhibitions, not just as where to put the objects or what kind of label goes next to it, but how they are essentially very rhetorical discursive spaces in themselves. Exhibitions are narrative, are experiential, are discursive, are political, are social. So that's EDCP 548, which is an elective. And looking forward to working with some of you eventually.
Thank you, Marie-France. And I know everybody actually takes your course on exhibits, even though it's an elective, because, well, they'll enjoy working with you, and it's such a fascinating subject.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see by the confetti and the love, you have a fan club already, Marie-France. So that's wonderful.
Anita, would you like to introduce your work?
Sure. Thank you so much, Lisa. It's hard to follow on Marie-France. This is wonderful. So my work in general is around artwork scholarship and art as research. So I teach a variety of courses in that respect. In relation to museum education, I spent 13 years at Concordia before returning to UBC. I did my PhD here as well. And we had several grants with the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts and other museums in the area with colleagues at McGill and beyond. And so we've got a long-standing research stream, but also teaching, where we had our community art education students who would do essentially a practicum with the different museums in Montreal. And so we have that aspect that we bring forward as well. So of course, Montreal being such a center for museums in Canada, it's an amazing city, and I hope you all have an opportunity to visit there at some point soon. In the context of this program, there's a course that I'm going to be offering this summer and hopefully again in the future as an elective, Global Perspectives on Museum Education. In fact, I pulled the book out because it came from one of the grants I just mentioned, and this is the book that we're going to use. It's a bit of a hefty textbook, but what we're going to do is look at thinking with museums as embedded in webs of relations, worldwide webs of relations, and the different kind of learning opportunities that are emerging around equity, diversity, inclusivity, and decolonizing actions differently. And it kind of follows on what Marie-France was just describing. So we're looking at contemporary case studies. We're looking at how our own practices connect and how we can build upon those kinds of experiences that are global and yet local. So the local is very much at the heart of that. So it's about cultivating that emergent, relational, sustainable, sensitive, educative perspectives for museum future. So that's just a little bit of what that course would look like. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Nita. And I've dipped into your book, and it's a fascinating read. So I think the course will be great. Dustin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm blown away by my colleagues, but I'll give it a go. I'm probably the newest member of the team of educators in this program. My name's Dustin Garnett. I was a specialized high school teacher in Toronto for 12 years. Then I got my master's at York, my PhD at Concordia in art education. And then I decided to change my life and fly down to Los Angeles and became a art educator there, teaching at California State University. While I was there, I made a lot of connections. I created a program, a national program there for community teaching artists. And it was the first professionalization certificate for art educators or for community art educators. And people were taking it from across the country. Yeah, now I'm at UBC. This is actually my first year, and I was offered the opportunity to teach in this program, and I think it can bring quite a few connections from previous jobs. And yeah, I'm very excited to teach a course that has been passed over to me, which is informal learning environments. So we'll be looking at any kind of research and theory around how students learn in these kinds of informal spaces. David, I'm sure will go in depth just a little bit more on this course as I'm also fully learning it and hopefully adding to that as well. Yeah, it's very good to meet everyone.
Wonderful. Thanks, Dustin.
And me.
David? Yes.
Thanks, Dustin. And I've been in this field for more than 30 years now as an academic, and I've done lots and lots and lots of different kinds of research studies and have different kinds of interests ranging from children's learning to long-term impact of museums and looking at museum school collaborations around the world and many, many different topics I've explored over my 30-year career. And of course, that's really inspired me as I've made the journey through this particular program, which has been almost 20 years now, just sort of bringing together the body of research that exists about how people learn and how education is enacted in these kinds of spaces. Of course, I think it goes without saying already that when we're talking about museums, we are talking about the gamut of informal learning contexts. So it could be memorials, it could be art galleries, it could be history museums, it could be science museums, it could be botanic gardens, any kind of space which has a educational mission and mandate is what we're looking at in these spaces. And so with that, the main focus of the graduate program is really to bring to bear deep and critical thinking about what we do as educators. So the front and center is education. We are trying to understand how we enact education, how we improve education, how we help our visitors learn, but not just learn. It's the range of psychological dimensions that visitors experience through emotional responses, through to effective appreciations, through to long-term impact, through to how they learn about themselves and how they learn about one another. So all manifestations of learning is our core interest and practice within this program. And of course, the goal is to make us better educators in whatever we do, in whatever institutions we're working at, or whatever spaces we're working with, or whomever we're working with, the elderly through to the children, through to all demographics across the spectrum. So with that, the course that Dustin's going to teach focuses on this issue, learning across the spectrum of life. How do museums think about how do we address audiences 0 through to 99? What are the theories which operate that we can utilize as museum educators to bring to bear not just craft wisdom, but rather really deeply informed educational practices that are known to really benefit the learner and the learning environment itself. So that might be the development of the program or the development of the exhibition, or how it's manifest in terms of outreaching communities and so on. So I will certainly be with you throughout the program. I a little bit uncertain as to what course I will actually teach at this point, given that I've passed my course that I normally teach first up onto Dustin. We're always updating our faculty, we're always updating our programs, and we're always renewing. So the program, of course, that was developed 20 years ago is a shadow of what it is today, because the times change, issues change. With that, we have to keep up to date. And so we're constantly in the mode of thinking about the curriculum for the graduate program and how we update it and how we reform it to keep pace with what's going on. And that includes the technological changes that are going on in terms of the online delivery of these programs, which we try to keep up to date with, and exploring very, very amazing things that are going on, particularly with AI and how that's shaping the educational landscape. Thanks, Lisa. That's enough about me.
Okay, thank you, David.
So
we're going to
go ahead.
We're going to talk a little bit in more detail about kind of the program structure and the courses. And so as you can see from this slide, it's really broken into 3 sections. The practice of museum education. So we'll look at research theory, research practice, and a field experience. Pedagogy, so looking at learning theory, teaching theory, curriculum theory, and programming theory. And then courses that are more specialized, so looking at a discipline focus, and there's the opportunity to do a capstone project as well. So it's a cohort-based program, so you work through the whole program with the cohort. And a cohort model is lovely because you have a group of, you've got a built-in support group. So the first program, or first course, starts in September, and it's a course that I teach, which is teaching in museums. And it's often a really nice introduction into being a grad student, because we're starting with something that you are usually very familiar with, and that's your practice as a teacher. So we'll explore teaching in museums in that September to December term. The next course that you'll take is learning in informal environments, and it's a really nice way to kind of build on from thinking about the theories around teaching, and then you'll have a chance to start to think about the learning theories and how that applies in informal settings. After that, in the spring of 2026, you will take curriculum issues and theories in museums with Marie-France, and I know, sorry?
27.
27, thank you. It's already 2026, isn't it? Yes. So spring 2027, curriculum issues and theories with Marie-France. And curriculum theory, I know students always come out of that program energized and with their minds buzzing with the ideas that they spend exploring in that program. Anthropology 518, Museum Methods. Now, this is the course that we do in person, and it is always a highlight of the program. So it will be in July. The dates will be determined as we get closer to the date. And the course, the program takes place in the Museum of Anthropology. It's an intensive 6 days on site with a little bit of pre-work and a little bit of post-work. And it really is a chance to not only meet your colleagues face to face, which always I think brings the group even more strongly together, but also to start to apply some of the things that you've already been thinking through in the previous 3 courses. And of course, UBC campus is beautiful, especially in July. The museum itself is quite spectacular, and it's just a great opportunity to think deeply about our work as museum educators.
And we
That
have
first year,
we have that little error occurring once again there.
that should be July 2027.
2027. So
Yes.
we're having the normal January blues with our calendar switchover. So July 2027 is the date.
Yes, that's right. I missed that one. Thanks for pointing that out, David. You can also take an elective during that first year if you want as well. And there's a whole range of electives that are really great ways to help continue exploring your practice. The following year, so starting in September, and this would be September 2027, you would be again working with me, and that's where we talk about education programming. So that's focused more on public programming in museums. Following that is the elective course that everybody often takes, which is actually I think almost everybody always takes, is exhibition pedagogy and design with Marie France. And also, you will be taking a research methodology course. And this is a great course because it introduces you to different research approaches. And for those of you who want to do a research-focused capstone project, this sort of launches you onto that program. So another elective is the course that Anit had mentioned, Global Perspectives on Museum Education, and that will be sometime in spring, summer of 2028. Dates to be determined. And again, you will be taking an elective or 2 depending on what your choices are there. So the other courses or opportunities that exist are something that we call a field experience. And this is always a little difficult to describe because it is quite open in how we approach it. So this field experience is an opportunity for you to dive more deeply into an idea or a project that you might be wanting to accomplish that you can't get to at work. Past field experiences have been kind of all over the gamut, from learning about evaluating in a setting to developing a curriculum for a classroom to visit a museum. So a huge range and potential there. And then the other is the graduating paper or the program capstone. And this can be a research-focused paper in which students do their own research, and they have that chance to do research supported and guided by faculty. And we've had lots of great work come out of programs like that, and one that's actually currently in Visitor Studies Journal. Can't remember the issue number, David, but it's of course a paper well worth looking at. David, can you put the link for that into the chat? I know it's open source as well, which makes it really accessible. And the capstone could also be project-based. So again, this could be developing an interpretive plan for your site or developing new programming. So again, lots of flexibility based on your interests and where you would like to take it. Any other, David or Marie-France, any other thoughts around this specific coursework and the schedule?
I just noticed that I just responded there that GF asked about accommodations for those at distance, and the university does provide a small travel bursary as a function of geographical distance. So it's a function of how far away you are. So if you're far, far, far away, like in Nova Scotia, it's a more generous travel bursary. If you're living on Vancouver Island, it's a much smaller travel bursary. So it will not cover all of your costs, but it certainly does help with transportation and accommodation.
And I think there is accommodation on campus, which is certainly less expensive than the expensive hotels in the area. So, and I know lots of students have found kind of a variety of ways to either team up on something. So again, there's lots of options around campus.
Lisa, you wanted me to put up the posting for what a 590 could be considered as?
I was wondering if you have the link to the paper that you and Andrea Lucy published.
Oh, yes. This one second.
Because it's a lovely example of a research project that was then developed into a journal article. And because it's open source, everybody can read it. So it's a lovely piece. And I guess now, so Nina, if you are ready, love if you could share your experience as a student in the program.
Yeah, absolutely. That's broad. So I'll kind of say a few things, and if there's anything you'd like me to include about my experience, like Lisa and David, please let me know. But I'm very grateful that you asked me to speak today. I've really, really enjoyed my time in this program so far. I feel like it's flown by. I'll kind of start like logistically. I've found it just to be extremely reasonable and manageable to be a part-time student. I had been out of my undergraduate degree for a few years, so I was like anxious about coming back to academics and kind of working on that skill set again. And over the first few courses, I found myself like able to read faster and retain more and think about how I wanted to organize my thoughts and write papers and do those academic things. And so like I feel like I've grown those muscles, which has been really great. And I've been completely able to do it while working full time, which is really, really helpful to be able to have my job and then come home and work on school and not feel very overwhelmed. There was another logistical thing I was going to say, which is that the in-person week in Vancouver was absolutely a highlight, like Lisa and David have both alluded to. I was able to meet everybody that I had spent a year talking online to in person. And so we bonded really quickly. We had a great time. We learned so much. And it was a great trip, and the travel bursary really did help, and I was able to cover all of my accommodations for the trip with that money, so that was really helpful for me coming from Los Angeles, from California. Besides that, I've just really liked being in school again and learning from my cohort. I feel like all the classes are set up to balance everyone's skill sets and interests and help you find ways to incorporate what you're thinking about in your practice. If there are problems you're facing at work or things that you want to think through just in a larger scale, it gives me time to slow down and think through the things that I'm struggling with and do research and really like learn how to back up the things that I'm learning on the job. And then, in general, like I think it's really helped like kind of fill out my resume and help build my professional development and like skills I don't know about, and like I said, learning from other people. So there's like a lot of group work, there's group projects where you're doing things with people who work in totally different museums or settings, schools than you do, and so you're all kind of coming together to make your work reflective of everybody's opinions and experiences, which I've appreciated. Yeah, I think that's what comes to mind. What else should I talk about?
Nina, could you just talk a little bit about what it's like to learn in the asynchronous online
Yeah.
platform? Thanks.
Absolutely. That's a really great point that I'm totally missing. I had graduated university before COVID, so I had never had any experience with online learning, and I was pretty nervous about that when I started out, but it's been very fine. It's been great. I love it. I feel like, again, it's part of balancing work and school and life and home and family, is being able to do things on my own schedule, but also, even though we're all learning and writing and reading each other's posts at different times of day, you still do get an understanding of who the other people in the cohort are, where they're coming from, their backgrounds, their worldviews. And so you feel like you get to know them as students and learners through reading and working with them for all these iterative classes. So I think that the cohortiness of the program has really like balanced out the kind of isolation that might come from asynchronous online learning, because you get really familiar with each other, and it helps you kind of know like what questions other people have strong opinions about and how you can get the most out of the experience.
I think also, Nina, and I'll just get you to comment on what I'm going to say, is that just about everybody in the program feels that the opportunity to thoughtfully reflect about what you want to contribute to the class discussion is better in the asynchronous environment, because you're not held captive to the 3-hour face-to-face lecture where you may not have formulated your thoughts about what you want to contribute publicly, but at least with the asynchronous, you've got time, you've got some days to think about how to respond thoughtfully. And so the richness of the discourse in the class is really, really deep and wonderful. Would you agree with that?
I certainly would agree with that. I think sometimes I'll just have a thought in the middle of the night, and then I'll add to it. And so you're thinking, you're kind of growing your thought on a topic over a week. So you might start out feeling one way about it after doing the readings and writing your own personal reflection, and then by Friday, reading other people's points of view, it makes your initial perspective grow, but in a more sustainable way than in a classroom where you have to respond in that moment. There are a few classes, just to respond to Kelly's question in the chat, that we had some Zooms, and then sometimes we'll Zoom for a group project, but everything is designed to be asynchronous. So there are definitely people in my cohort that work nights or work days or live in Hong Kong and are on totally different time zones, and it's been manageable for everyone.
That's great, Nina. Thank you. And I will also reiterate that point, that I think the conversation in the course is probably richer because it is asynchronous and we have that time to think about it. And I think the time to reflect on it throughout the week, throughout your work week, and then pull in those examples of what you're doing during your working life. And then it really enriches our conversation through the course as well. So thank you, Nina. It's always lovely to hear student perspectives on this.
Yeah, and I'll stick around and answer questions at the end. I see things in the chat. I can respond to them in the chat, but then I'll stay around too.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nina.
I'll just add one more comment to Nina's thoughtful responses about her perspectives, and that is, I think one of the greatest benefits that colleagues in the program experience is the fact that we all come from very diverse backgrounds. So we've got people from the arts, the sciences, the various humanities, all kinds of disciplines. And the fact that we're all working in different kinds of institutions, together with the geographic diversity. Some are in small rural towns, small rural museums. Some are working at flagship museums like you, Nina, at the Getty. And so we've got this tremendous diversity of experience across a range of parameters, rural and urban, and discipline-based and museum size and positions that people hold in the museum. So the discourse is super, super, super rich.
Thank you. Kelvin, I think it's over to you.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so we'll now go through the admissions and application information. Next slide, please. Yes, so regarding the application requirement, all students must meet the admission and application requirements of both the Faculty of Graduate Studies and this program. So the listed requirements that you're going to see is a combination of the Faculty of Graduate Studies minimum requirements plus some special requirements of this particular program, which includes, firstly, an approved bachelor's degree, and for K-12 teachers, 1 year of teacher education. Or if your bachelor's degree that you took from your university or country is a little bit longer and not just a 1 year degree, we also accept 5-year bachelor's in education or a 4-year bachelor's in education or other appropriate area. And when we say other appropriate area, there is some degree of leeway as to what's considered appropriate. But if you're able to make a good case in your application that whatever your focus of study is will be related to museum education in some way, we'd still encourage you to apply. And we are looking at a GPA of B+, that is roughly a 76% or equivalent at UBC or other universities that use a out of 100 grading scale, with the exception of transcripts from universities in China. And this would usually correspond closer to an 85% for most PRC university grading systems. And if the applicant is from a key university, the minimum grade requirement is a B, which equals to an 80% on the PRC grading scale. And please note that this GPA that you see right here, it is not a hard cutoff point. So let's say you're only a few percentages off. Even in that case, even if your GPA doesn't quite meet the above criteria, if the rest of your application is still strong enough, we may submit a special case rationale to recommend you for admission for UBC grad studies nonetheless. So this is a very long-winded way of me to say, even if your grades aren't quite there, but you're close, we recommend you to apply. Next slide, please. And other documents that we will require from you is firstly a 600-word statement of intent about your career goals and explain clearly why you wish to take this particular program with the relevant focus area. So as mentioned previously, if your GPA doesn't quite meet the requirement, you can still sell yourself by using your statement of intent. It is an opportunity for you to explain and convince us why you are a good candidate. We'll also need from you 3 letters of recommendation. So these are your reference letters. And these references must be able to speak to either your academic or professional background. And usually we ask for 1 academic and 2 professional references. However, UBC grad school does recognize that not everyone might still be in contact with their academic references. Maybe it's been a long while since you've done any school. And in those cases, just professional references are also okay. You'll also be asked to provide a resume or CV. And please note that this is a resume and CV for the purpose of applying to a graduate program. So what this means is there is no need for you to stick to a 1 or 2 page format that is typical of most employment resumes. Your resume for this application can be as concise or as detailed as you need to showcase the full extent of your professional, academic, and volunteer experience. So if you need a full 6 page to show everything, upload the full 6 pages. And lastly, we'll also ask for scanned copies of all official transcripts. And when we say all transcripts, we do mean all. Maybe you took one term of exchange course at another university. We will require the transcripts from that university as well. Let's say you transferred from Langara College to SFU. We will require both your Langara College and SFU transcripts as well. Basically, if you attended a post-secondary institute and you got accredited courses from that, you'll be asked to provide an official transcript. And if your university is outside of Canada or the US, we will ask you to provide a scan of the degree certificate as well. So your diploma document thing, basically. Next slide, please.
And I'm just going to jump in there for a second, Kelvin. I just want to emphasize for your CV of including things, and Kelvin mentioned volunteer experience, but including things where you are in that kind of that teaching learning relationship that might be a little beyond what you might be thinking as an informal setting, but that can include, you know, are you a coach in sports? So like those sorts of things are really good ways to help us to see you as a well-rounded educator working in a whole variety of settings. So don't hold back because you think it's not museum related. Think about informal learning in the most broadest sense. Sorry, Kelvin.
Sure. Additionally, for applicants from a university outside of Canada, where English is not the primary language of instruction, you will be asked to provide results of an English language proficiency exam as part of your application. So the test must be recent. It must have been taken within the last 24 months at the time of submission of your application. So basically what this means is if you are required to submit an English language test, you have to have the test results ready when you submit your application. It's not a case of where you can get an offer of admission first and then go back and try to meet the language test results. It must be provided upfront. Next slide. So regarding the actual application procedure, everything is done online, and you navigate to grad.ubc.ca/apply/online. I'm going to type the link in the chat as well for your convenience. And when you're there, just click apply online, and then you'll be prompted to either log in with your CWL or create one if you have never attended UBC. Your CWL stands for campus-wide login, and it's basically your online login for anything UBC online related. You'll use it to access your application portal. You will use it to access your online courses once you have been admitted into the program, and you'll use it to access all of UBC Library's online resources as well. So yes, even though you are in an online/hybrid program, you are still entitled to access all of UBC Library's resources and catalog. So yeah, once logged in the degree program selection, you type the program code, which is MED9. It's very important. The program name is Master of Museum Education, Professional Cohort, MED9. If you don't search exactly as it is, you might accidentally filter in some other programs as well. And due to how finicky the application program is, if for some reason you accidentally apply to the wrong program, there is no way for staff to switch your application to the right program. If you apply to the wrong program, you'll be asked to restart your application from the very beginning, basically. So yeah, once you've reached the experience and interest page of the application, make sure you chose the right program, and then yeah, select the right one, basically. And then you'll be prompted to enter the rest of the info, and then you click declare and submit. Next page. And of course, you'll be asked to upload all of your supporting documents. And it is okay for you to first submit your application, then go back in to upload the rest of your documents if you don't have them on hand, like immediately. And there is a good reason as to why you would like to pay and submit your application as soon as possible, even though you don't have all your documents ready. And the reason is that for your references will not be sent the email to prompt them to upload or enter the reference until you have paid and submitted the application, basically. So yeah, you'll be asked to upload your official transcripts, your references, your statement of intent, your resume, and your English test scores if it applies to you. And just a quick side note, ultimately, once you're admitted into the program at the very end, you will have to provide official sealed transcripts sent directly to UBC grad school. The only exception to that would be if you are a UBC student or alumni. And if that is you, we have all your grades on file already. Next slide, please. So just dipping into references a little bit. When adding your references to your application, you'll be asked to specify whether they are professional or academic references. And academic references are those who know you in an academic capacity. So maybe former professors or instructors. And these are people who can speak to your ability to complete a graduate program, basically. Whereas professional references would be those that you have that supervise you in a work setting. So think things like principals, vice principals, or some sort of supervisor if it is a non-educational setting. And these are individuals who can speak to your professionalism and also your interest in the program and related subject areas. And you're very strongly encouraged to submit electronic reference letters. And basically, it's because number one, it is easier to track than a physical letter. There's less likely for the letter to be sent somewhere else accidentally. And how you do that is very simple. Within your application, you'll be asked to put in the email addresses of your 3 references. And you have to put in an email address. If you don't put in an email address, the application won't let you proceed. And if your reference uses free web-based email addresses, so if the email address is at gmail.com, at hotmail.com, or something else, they will receive a link to a paper form that they can print out fill in and then mailed to UBC. And if they use a quote-unquote professional email address, maybe something like at ubc.ca, at whatever school district.ca, or at whatever company.com. For these individuals who does use a professional email address, they will instead receive a link to complete an electronic form, or they can upload a reference letter directly. And yes, a reference letter can take the place of the form as long as it addresses the questions in the form. So in the rare case that your reference letter gives you a glowing recommendation, but somehow doesn't answer a single question that's listed into the form, that is not okay. Next slide, please. So yeah, as mentioned previously, if your reference is unable to submit an electronic reference, we do accept sealed and endorsed reference letters sent through the mail. And it's very important for these individuals that they specify the references for the MED9 cohort. And we'll also ask them to have their signature on the sealed envelope. All of this might seem a bit tedious, but it is basically to prevent academic reference fraud, which we do catch every now and then, and this is the prevention. And whether or not your reference is prompted to send in a paper form or upload an electronic form, in the respective emails, they will receive instructions on what to do, including what would be the mailing address, which is listed on the slide right here for your reference as well. Next slide, please. So regarding the application deadline, the online application is open right now. You can apply as early as right after this info session. And the application deadline is for March 15th, 2026, with the document deadline being a little bit later at March 29th, 2026. Basically, that means you have until March 15th to pay and submit your application, but you have until the 29th to have everything else uploaded, including your transcripts, your reference, your letter of recommendations, so on and so on. And there is a difference in application fees between domestic and international students. Domestic applicants only apply to Canadian citizens or Canadian permanent residents. And if you are in any other category, you are under the bracket of international applicants. Next slide, please. So regarding the program tuition, there is a difference in tuition between domestic and international students, but you notice that is not that much. So no, lucky you. The graduate tuition is assessed as an annual program fee. And that is divided into 3 equal installments due at the beginning of each term. So this would be September, January, and May. And this total tuition amount is payable over a minimum of 7 installments. And this is one for each term of your program, which is, by default, 7 terms. If for some reason you take an officially approved break in the middle, tuition will pause until you resume your education. And if for some reason, let's say you take a long time on your graduation paper, maybe you need an 8th or a 9th term, there is an additional fee per extra term, but that is only roughly about, I believe, 700-ish Canadian dollars for any additional term above the standard 7. And when we say that tuition is charged as a whole program fee and not on a per credit basis, basically this means that no matter how many courses you end up taking, you will pay the same exact tuition amount. So there are two examples of this. If, for example, you have transfer credits that is miraculously approved and you end up taking less courses, you still pay the exact same tuition. On the flip side, if you take a lot more electives, maybe just because you want to, for your own personal interest or professional development, let's say you take a couple of accounting courses or maybe a couple of language courses, and you end up taking 20 courses total by the time you complete your program. You'll still be paying the same exact tuition amount as you would if you were to take the standard 10 courses. So we highly encourage you to take advantage of this. Tuition may be raised by up to 2% annually. And if there is an increase, it will be announced in spring of the year. And we do have to take a quick pause here to talk about funding eligibility. So since this program is part-time, it's designed for people who are working full-time and doing this study as a part-time, is thus not eligible for traditional student loans and other types of funding. And we say traditional student loans and other types of funding because a lot of these kinds of funding will look at whether a program is considered part-time or not. And it doesn't matter if you take a lot of electives and you end up taking a full, quote unquote, a full course load because the program is categorized as part-time. If your organization or party that provides you the funding asks UBC if you are a part-time student in this program, by law, we have to say yes. However, if your third-party funding, let's say your school district or whichever is sponsoring you, if they do not care about this part-time aspect of the program, go ahead, nothing's stopping you. And fees are subject to change manually, and only information in the UBC calendar is official. Next slide, please. So regarding additional tuition, I guess, there are student fees that are charged in addition to tuition. They vary from term to term, approximately $800 per term. But a lot of this you can opt out of. You can ignore the Kootenai bullet point right here. But fees that you can opt out of include the medical and dental plan. Let's say you have your own coverage, you don't need that. You can opt out of that amount. And let's say you do not live inside the Greater Vancouver area, so you won't ever need the U-Pass, which is the public transit pass of the Greater Vancouver area. And if that applies to you, you can opt out of that as well. And there are various little fees that you can choose to opt out of if you would choose to. And that can lower your student fees to as low as like by half or even more, basically. And next slide. So in regards to teacher education certificate, so this is directed to teachers in the Vancouver Lower Mainland that have taken UBC students in your classrooms as student teachers. If this applies to you, you might be eligible for a little bit of tuition credit. I believe is 1.5 credit per instance that this has happened. So if this applies to you, you can reach out to the teacher education office at teacher.ed@ubc.ca, and they can get you sorted out on that when you have to pay tuition. Next slide, please. So yeah, that is the end of the application and admissions information session. Everything that I have covered just now so far is also available on the program webpage, but it is now time for Q&A, and we're going to go through the chat as well, or if you have any burning questions that you would like to ask vocally, please feel free to turn on your mic.
Thanks, Kelvin. I'm just wondering, there were a couple of last kind of quick questions that I maybe just address quickly. Eric, your question about travel to the Kootenays, apologies on that. That was information that was from a program that's focused on programs for teachers in the Kootenays. So you don't get to go to the Kootenays, as beautiful as it is. And Kelvin, maybe you can just clarify JL's question of opting out of medical, dental plus UPass. What is the approximate fee on top of the $2,500 per term? Does that $2,500 per term include the student fees, or is that in addition to? Oh, Kelvin, are you there?
Yeah, can you go back to can you go back a few slides?
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one.
Oop.
Back. Yeah,
That
so yeah, so the installment shown right here is just the tuition. In the sense, this is just your course, and the student fees would be on top of that. So let's say you opt out of absolutely everything. As a domestic student, you're probably looking at closer to around 2,900-ish, roughly. I don't have the math on me at the moment, unfortunately.
Thanks, Kelvin. Hope that helps you, Eric. Does anyone want to ask a question in person?
Yes, I did. We did our best to keep pace with the furious list of questions there, but inevitably, I'm sure we've missed some.
David, there is one here from Lauren, and Annika also was wondering about it, and it's around international, I guess, being an international student. And Lauren asks, would there be any information on PGWP eligibility for the program? I'm not sure what PGWP means, but does that make sense to you, David?
Maybe you can turn on your microphone and just share with us a bit about that, if you're still with us.
Yeah, it's
Lauren?
about the postgraduate work program.
Ah,
Yes.
But because the course is online, 90%, I don't have that information whether
No,
you would
the
be
answer to that is-
eligible for that. It would
The
have
answer
to.
is no, it's not eligible.
not eligible. Okay. Thanks, David and Marie-France. Natasha, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering how approximately, this is a very logistical question, but approximately how long does it take for references to fill out the forms? I'm just wondering what to communicate to my references for them filling it out.
I think it depends on how well the individual knows you. Generally speaking, and Kelvin can correct me here, there's maybe 5 fields, and then there's some Likert scale rankings that the referee will have to fill out. So a conscientious referee, they may take, if they're very thoughtful about it, I would be reasonable to think that they could do it in under a half an hour. If you provide them with your background and your updated CV and stuff like that. I think that's a very important point, actually. So just don't blindly put people down as referees. So approach them first and say, dear so-and-so, remember me, I was this, and this. I was wondering if you might serve as a referee for this program. if you're willing, the form will be, forthcoming. So get them to confirm their willingness first. Otherwise, when people get random emails from someone that they knew 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it's a little bit difficult. So set your referees up for being able to comment on your wonderful skills and expertise as a potential graduate student. So I think, a very, very thoughtful referee might spend something like a half an hour. You could potentially do it in I don't know, 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes if you were to do a fair job, a cursory job. You don't want cursory job referees. You want people who speak wonderfully to you. So I think between 15 minutes to a half an hour.
Just to add to that, I think you should give your referee, a 2-week notice at least. That's, very kind of you to do that. Everybody has things to do.
Tomo, you had a question.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. So I'm a high school science teacher with interest and background in working with natural history museums, and I noticed the instructors had talked about with a background of art theory and cultural studies, and wondering if the program is applicable from like a science and environmental education standpoint.
Lovely question, and you, my heart. My background is natural history, so nature. So I also I also have some experience working in a history museum. So the thing I really find about the coursework and the readings, and more what we're seeing is it is more interdisciplinary. So you're talking about how to use art and science in a setting. So as a classroom science teacher who I hope take your students out into the nature as much as possible, I think the program is very applicable. And there is also lots of opportunities for you as students to bring in articles that really kind of focus on your personal interests. So I think one of the strengths of this is that we are looking at this interdisciplinary.
And I think just to add to that, Tomo, it was the science educators in terms of the research field who've made a very, very significant contribution to how we understand how people learn in these settings. So going back to the 80s and 90s, there's a plethora of research studies conducted by science educators. And of course, that's really informed the way in which we do visitor studies research, and of course these kinds of readings will permeate the course inevitably. So and further to that, we have many people in science centres and science-based institutions who are members of the cohort. So you would be in good company if you were to be admitted to the program. I'll just add one other comment before we go further to questions, and that is because I can see we're coming up an hour and 15 minutes into the talk, and I can see some people are dropping off by need of time. Can I encourage you, everybody who is contemplating submitting an application, to open your application very shortly and start it, because you can build your application as you go along. You don't have to submit it. You can submit up until the 15th of March, but to commence it. And the reason I'm saying to begin your commencing it, you could commence it this evening, just open up the portal and get yourself a login, is because it'll give you an idea of all the documents you'll need to gather. And it does take time to get these documents together, and you can work on your application, you can save and close and open and save and close and so forth. But it's really good to give you an understanding about the scope of the documents and the field that you need to fill out, because it does take a bit of time, and starting early is much better than leaving it to the last moment, particularly with regard to Dustin's very sage comment about giving your referees time to be able to respond thoughtfully. And I think, Kat, you've got a question, your hand is up.
Yes, I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all the information and for taking this time for us. Very much appreciate it. I wanted to know if to date there have been any Indigenous students as part of previous cohorts, and if so, what were their general impressions of the program?
I think the answer is certainly yes. We've had many Indigenous students over the years. I certainly believe that their experiences are extremely positive. When we do our assessments of the program and get an understanding as to how people are reacting and expressing and feeling the program as they go along, the feedback's always quite positive, and I think Nina will attest to the responsiveness of faculty. I can see her nodding her head there. Maybe you can jump in and comment, Nina, that we are a very responsive and can I say caring? Can I say caring? Is that right, Nina?
We are a very caring group of professors. Yeah. Truly, I think one of the easiest ways for me to bond when we all met each other in person was just how much we all were like huge fans of our professors. And it was an easy conversation to have because we've all had really great experiences with the people on the screen.
And I think further testimony of that is the dropout rate. The dropout rate is extremely low. Inevitably, that sometimes there are family tragedies that cause people to have to drop out, or medical issues that cause people to drop out. But I can't remember the last time anybody dropped out because they didn't like the program. But there might have been one a long time ago, but I am truly, that's an honest answer. I'm unaware of anybody who's dropped out because they didn't enjoy the program. People have dropped out for medical reasons and other reasons, but enjoyment, satisfaction, professional development, none of those are the reasons why people drop out. Perhaps that answers your question, Cam.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
I just want to say, sorry.
No, go ahead, Marie-France.
For instance, Kat, one of my, and this is a very good question because I know that, museums are complex spaces. Museums are contested spaces. And that is a conversation that we want to have. But museums are also, for me, in a way, amazing spaces. So they're both contested, they're both complicated, they're both colonial spaces. That's part of their DNA. But at the same time, it's also a space of opportunity. And I start my course with the 548 on museum spaces with a text by Gerald McMaster. Gerald McMaster, okay, there you go. So who created a show at MOA in the 1980s and precisely addressing the complexity of that spaces. So you actually weave in your own voices and your own thinking all throughout the course. And that is, for me anyway, something which I always welcome.
So Annika mentioned the different kind of electives that are available. So there are many, many, many different kinds of electives you can do. You can do them through UBC, and of course, as Calvin mentioned, we have many professional MOUs between different universities, particularly through the Western Dean's Agreement, that enable you to do courses at other universities. And it's at no additional cost beyond your tuition fees. So if you were to do an elective course through Athabasca University or Royal Roads or University of Victoria, and it was approved, because we have to approve all the electives, and you were to get in, you don't pay the tuition fee because you're already paying it at UBC. So that's an advantage. And it's really up to you as to what kind of elective that you're really wanting to pursue. So, of course, some people in natural history, they want to pursue natural history-based electives. Some people in the arts want to pursue arts-based electives. It's really up to you to sort of search out. And we have a master list of the last 15 years of electives that have been taken. So we've got probably hundreds of electives on our list of electives that students have taken in the past for you to look at, and just sort of know where the key institutions are that are offering electives. Usually, as I said, I just mentioned the three. So Athabasca, Royal Roads, University of Victoria, University of Toronto, all of these ones are very key institutions for offering electives relating to the museum field. But if there are other ones out there, you can propose them, providing they meet the graduate studies criteria, and we approve them. Other questions?
Maybe I'll just jump in. Oh, Natasha, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, it's me again. Just by curiosity, you were saying, so the electives, could they be taken abroad? Let's say for a Canadian student, we wanted to take a course abroad at another university. Would that be an option? Thank
It's
you.
interesting you should say that, Natasha, because we've just had this very case approved within the last month. So a current student in the program where Nina's working with, one of your colleagues, Nina, is in Melbourne, Australia, and she was very keen to do a study on, I can't remember the name of the title, Kelvin, Indigenous something, or something to do with indigeneity, and I can't remember the title. Anyway, it was relevant, very, very much relevant to her museum work. So the university in Australia, we did not have a reciprocal relationship with, but we were able to get it approved through the Faculty of Graduate Studies. So the issue there was she did actually have to pay, or she is actually paying for the course herself because it's not covered under the reciprocal arrangement, but we're able to secure the opportunity for her to be credited to her program. So there's a difference between courses that are covered financially at foreign institutions, okay, foreign means outside of UBC, and courses that could be counted as academic credit, but may not be covered financially. So in this case, the student in Melbourne really, really wanted to do this course, and she proposed it. She gave the course outline, we reviewed it. We said, yes, this looks like it meets the criteria for graduate credit within the Master Museum Education program. We were able to get approval from University Graduate Studies, and then she was able to go ahead and do the course at her expense. So once she completes that, she's doing it right now, she'll be able to course transfer those credits into her program.
Maybe I'll jump in and address the question Sandy asked. And Sandy, so you are doing adult ed workshops, which I think I'm quite intrigued with. And your question was whether it would be possible to do a capstone in that setting. And I would say definitely yes. The capstone project is very flexible, and it's really it's a conversation with you and faculty members about what would make a great focus for the research or for the project. So I would think definitely it would be a lovely setting to explore more deeply. And if you did a research focus, because you're working with adults, the ethics review process is slightly easier than it would be if you were working with children. So positive. Any other questions?
I just want to say on the recording, because I remember being in on the other side of this as an interested prospective student, something that was mentioned in the chat that I think is really important is that on average, I'd say that the workload per class is like about 10 hours a week. And that's part of what makes it really manageable to have full-time work as well. And obviously that will change with like certain assignments or if you're taking electives or whatever, but I think that that's pretty standard at this point in my time in the program.
Okay, so we're coming up on 5 minutes to 6 Pacific time. So, and we've been going for almost an hour and a half. So inevitably there will be more questions, which is absolutely fine. So if you've got a question about the academic side of the program, feel free to email Lisa. You've got our email addresses there, Kelvin, on the slide?
Yeah, Lisa, the next slide is our contact info.
Okay.
Okay, just if you can bring that up. Contact Lisa or myself. You can also reach out to Anita, just Google her. She's at UBC. We don't have her up there, but we should have done that. How remiss of us. Sorry, Anita. And then also Kelvin, if you've got questions about the process for admission, so anything to do with the application process, Kelvin is your man. So please feel free to reach out to him. And once again, as I said before, don't wait to start the application. Open it up so you can see what, get going on it, build your application, and when you're ready, of course, press the submit button. We're here to help, and it's a great pleasure to be with you this afternoon, and please do reach out if you have other questions. Lisa, any final comments?
No, I think we've covered a lot. So as David said, reach out if and when you have questions. And I hope to see you next September.
And thank you, faculty. Thank you, Anita and Marie-France and Dustin. Thank you for joining us. And especially Nina, thank you so much for your sage comments and encouragement. Okay, so thanks everybody. Looking forward to reading the applications and all the very best.